Welcome to part 27 of Was I in a Cult? So in the last video I was talking about the sermonette situation. So the church I was in was very male dominated, and most of the speakers and preachers and teachers within the church were men. They used to like to use that scripture about how a woman is not permitted to speak over a man or something like that. I believe that scripture was taken out of context in many ways, and I'm not going to go into detail about that, but honestly, the church ran, as many churches do, with the men leading and the women are the followers and those who are considered the backbone of the ministry or behind the man. I wasn't against men and I didn't hate men or anything. However, I really wasn't the type of person that wanted to find myself under the submission of one. Basically, I wasn't your average girl in church that wanted to find a husband and get married and have kids. And I remember when I first came to the church and I was kind of involved in the youth ministry, a lot of the leaders within the church, like the girl leaders, were all teamed up with like a guy leader, and they weren't like leaders on their own. They were leaders because their husbands were leaders or because their boyfriends were leaders. And a lot of them got pregnant out of wedlock. Yeah, that became a little bit of a problem when the pastors are preaching about purity and keeping yourself pure and holy, but almost half of the youth staff were getting pregnant out of wedlock. Yet they were the ones telling people that they couldn't date and that they couldn't go out on their own or alone, that they had to have an escort with them. So apparently none of those leaders took their own advice and got chaperones. It's really funny to me how hypocritical some church people can be. Now, I'm not saying you can't make mistakes, but you can't be over there like preaching one thing and then doing something completely opposite and expect for people not to think you're a hypocrite. I mean, these leaders were literally rebuking people for going to go eat together when they're over there having sex. Really? Anyways, that's not what we're here to talk about today. Just saying, there was a lot of people throwing stones when they had major planks in their own eyes. So after that sermonette, a few more speaking opportunities came my way, and I just remember that one time I was asked to teach at one of the regional discipleships, and not just teach a little sermonette, but actually teach the class. And it was at our own church, so we were going to be having a discipleship with our own women, and I was asked to be the main speaker for one of the classes. Now, this is when some of the women in the church began to get jealous. I mean, truly, I can understand why, because some of these women had been in there for like 2 to 5 years, and I walk in and 6 months later I'm teaching them. Some didn't take that too well. Someone once tried to spread a rumor that I was pregnant with some guy from the home. Okay. These guys weren't even allowed to see their family members, yet somehow this guy from the home got me pregnant. Because I talked to him for 5 minutes and someone saw. It was around the time that I was told that I needed to abstain from even the mere appearance of evil, that if I talked to a guy for more than 5 minutes, I could become pregnant from them, apparently. And then I got asked to preach a sermon in front of the entire Sunday night service, which was like kind of unheard of, because women were never really able to teach or preach on a regular church service. It was either like even Sandra hadn't spoke in our own church service on a Sunday night. she had gone to other churches that had invited her to speak, but she had never spoke at our own church in front of the whole congregation. And I was asked to do that. To me, it was like a huge honor, especially after all that I had gone through with people, basically doing everything they could to keep me down. I mean, that's how it felt sometimes as a woman. It felt like the men were in control and they didn't really want to give women many opportunities, especially single women and single young women at that. I mean, like I said, the time that I was able to speak was in front of the whole congregation, and that wasn't something that was normally done unless it was someone that was like an elder that had been into the church, like a woman that's usually like a pastor's wife of someone was able to speak if she had been in the church like 15-20 years or something, but not a new person, not someone that is kind of new to the church. What I did like about Sandra, that was my leader at the time, is that she was always supportive of all of the times that I was able to speak. She never seemed to be jealous or she never gave me any problems with that. She was actually the type of leader that wanted her disciples to go farther and was actually proud of us for doing so, which was great. That was a great thing about her. Now, Sandra's disciples, on the other hand, that's a whole different story. Now, some of Sandra's other disciples, that was a different story. One of them, I think, developed some kind of like a personal vendetta against me. Like, she literally used to try to get me in trouble with Sandra. Here's an example of that. One time, I was giving people a ride home and I needed gas money, and I was kind of embarrassed to ask the people that I was giving rides to. And so I asked a couple of people I knew in the church, like, if I could borrow some money for gas, because I didn't want to have to ask the people that I was giving a ride to. I know I probably should have. They probably should have been giving me money anyways for giving them a ride. But I don't know, for some reason I felt more comfortable asking someone else. Well, I don't know how it happened. I remember I thought Diane was like a friend, so I think I asked her. I'm not sure. And somehow it got back to Sandra that I was panhandling in church. So Sandra confronts me and she's like, so I heard that you were panhandling in church. And I'm like, I knew who I had asked gas money from. And I knew pretty much who it was, that it was Diane that had said that. And I was just like, really? I can't believe she tried to say I was panhandling when I was just trying to borrow some money for gas from someone. Technically, these people that I was giving rides to should have been giving me gas money, but they were just taking advantage of me, and because they were my leaders, I thought I had to give them a ride without asking them for any money. I was literally like 19 years old. These people were like 32 years old asking me for rides because they didn't drive. And then they have the nerve to get mad at me for asking someone else to borrow money. Like, what's it to them anyways? Like, I'm a grown adult. I'll borrow money from who I need to borrow money from. It's not called panhandling. I'm not on the street corner panhandling. Let's just say I quickly learned who I could trust and who I could not trust within our little group of friends, and they weren't even friends. Some of them were, they were just jealous disciples. It was very clear to me that they were really trying to brown nose and be around Sandra to get opportunities that they thought they could get, and then when they weren't getting them, they were coming against those who were like myself. But believe me, their true colors came out pretty bright in the end. At the time, I don't even think I realized this. I just thought we were all sisters in the Lord and that we were all rooting for each other, but it wasn't like that.